Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the Talking Wednesday podcast. I hope this podcast finds you well. As always, it's a bit of an interesting one this week. There's no football in between the last podcast and this one, but maybe we've put this out a little bit earlier so you can watch this just before kickoff, but you're probably watching it after the Norwich match if all ends up working as it probably will. I am Dexterity Box, joined by Jake PunkChef41. As always,
hope we all well.
How's your week been, Jake?
Stressful. Very, very stressful. This week has not been great for me. As some of you might have seen on Twitter, my little one had a temperature, and because she's at nursery, that involved giving her second COVID test of her life, which was painfully not the first time. Even worse when she knows it's coming. So glad to have a break, but she's back at nursery. Everything fine. It was just a normal kid bug. How are you?
Well, I can't really match the drama of that. No, it's all that. I'm just sort of in limbo, waiting for my Microsoft jab. But other than that, I'm just sort of just.
I'd have mine. Bill Gates knows everything I'm doing now.
Oh, exactly. Wonderful. So,
it was meant to be a quiet week.
It was meant to be a quiet week. We were like, can you give us a load of topics? And you did do that. We're probably using only about 3 of them this week. We're going to save them because one week we'll think we've got a busy week and it's actually a quiet week. So we'll use those that you have banked for us. But it's
Might
actually
be good in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. So if you've put something, don't feel like you have to put it every week. If it's good, I've screenshotted it, put it in a document, and it will be used eventually. But a lot has come up this week to talk about. We've got quite a big show planned, so strap in. And you're probably watching this after the Norwich match because if it ends up being a long one, I might not be able to upload it before and everybody actually get through it. Yeah. So feel free to take breaks in it, but it's going to be a good one. There's a lot to talk about, and that's because we're going to start with the reviews when they load, actually. We might have to do a brief cut here because the reviews aren't loading because I'm changing my internet about. Our podcast this week, by the way, hit number 8 in Sweden this week.
Sweden?
Yeah. Yeah, probably left that clip in there as we go into reviews. So I said we'd do some Podchaser reviews today. Not checked Apple Podcasts. If you have left one in there in the week since, we will go there. We're going to try and flip between Podchaser and Apple reviews. So if you fancy leaving 2 reviews, feel free to doing that. Podchaser's an easier one if you've not got an Apple setup. So we're going to read 3 reviews today. The first one is from Harry, 5 stars. Obviously, 5 stars. We're reading them. We are those type of people. Great podcast. Always look forward to it every Sunday. Keep it up. Thank you very much. So, another simple one here from Dylan. A great podcast. Short and sweet. Love it. And then this one is from Maple Leaf BC. Finally, a place to hear about and discuss the trials and tribulations of being a Sheffield Wednesday fan. Dex and Punk offer a centred perspective on results, players, ownership, future, etc. Moreover, their effort to engage our community for topics and opinions is refreshing. Keep up the great work. Love that one. Thank you very much. That is what we try to do, especially with the community focus. So glad to see you're appreciating that. And thank you for all your kind messages, as always. Let's get into the show. Enough waffle now. The accounts have come out this week. Now, I am not an accountant. Punk is not an accountant. Nope. But I did spend a good afternoon going through these accounts and doing my best analysis of them. I've looked at what other people have deduced from them. I've deduced slightly different things and different meanings. Basically, I
did get a message from me going, what the hell? How do I read this? Because my brain gone.
I'll lead, he can follow. It's all good.
Yes.
So, I'm going to read some words at you, and then we're going to go into what they mean. They're kind of self-explanatory, the way the bits I'm reading to you from the actual accounts, but then we will break it down a little bit more. So this is from the accounts directly. And when I refer to the company in business, the company in this specific instance is the club, obviously. The company uses a number of key performance indicators to measure its performance. Turnover was down to 22.8 million as opposed to 25.2 million 2018 due to the previous period being a 14-month period. That's what a lot of people are missing as well. Back to the quote. Average league attendance fell to 24,429, previously 25,939. The team finished 12th in the Football League Championship as opposed to 15th in 2018. The company's profit for the year was £19.1 million, compared to a loss in the previous period as restated of £35.5 million. As set out in note 1.2 of the financial statements, the club lost its appeal against the decision of an EFL disciplinary tribunal that the sale of the stadium did not have a retrospective effect, and the accounts therefore reflect a prior period adjustment to remove the disposal from the period ended 31st of July 2018 and recognise it in the year ended of 31st of July 2019. Basically, quotes over now, what that means is these are the accounts, by the way, for the end of the 2029 in July, that financial accounts year. Yeah. So we don't know about 2020. We're coming up to where 2021's accounts should be submitted. So that's how far we're behind we are in terms of accounts. But you do submit your accounts at the end of the year. So we still haven't heard 2020s yet.
From what I'm hearing, we've actually done a little bit better at getting the latest accounts in better. It seems like we might have done it all at one set, but while we're at it, we'll crack on with the other set as well. So yeah. And it's nice to see you get them on time.
That's true. And I have spoke a lot at you there. That was a lot of words. But what that basically means is it explains that we made a profit of 19.1 million because we sold the stadium and the stadium was actually put into that year. And it kind of explains why we tried to retrospectively sell the stadium, which is why we got into trouble with financial fair play. Whereas this is actually meant in 2019, when the accounts closed, we ended up with a 19.1 million profit. That has worried people because obviously turnover, we're going to get into the wage bills in a minute. It means that our wage bill is actually higher than our turnover. And if you take out we'd have made a loss still. So we're going to get into that. So the wage bill in 2018 was 37 million, 42 if you include social security, all that sort of stuff. Wage bill in 2019, 32 million, 37. Now, yes, that is a £5 million decrease, which is great. If you think that we've gone down that factor, that'll be good. I just thought it'd be a good thing, and I've not seen this done, is to look at the actual players we got rid of, because this is the wage bill. You've got to think about staff and things like that as well. Turnover, that will be in there somewhere, but it's negligible, I think, when you're talking about players. Management might be a thing that's in there, but that year, when we got rid of players from 2018 to 2019, we got rid of Louvens, Hunt, Wallace, Keane, Hurst, and Clare. So that means the average salary over those players, and don't get me wrong, some players will have been on more. I can imagine like Wallace and Hunt were probably the bigger earners in that, which is why we sold Hunt and that a lot. Louvens, obviously, we don't know that, but they were all senior players, so you can imagine they were on respectable wages for the championship. The average wage across those, if you take the decrease from the year before, is £16,000 a week. If you do the maths on that, that's the average wage across 6 players. So if you can see how getting rid of 6 players, and I was kind of conservative with that estimate there. If you think you can shed 6 players on 16k a week and get 5 million off the wage budget, it is plausible that you can keep decreasing that budget if you are business savvy. You've got to remember, this is the first time when Chansiri came in where you could see that the ship was beginning to sink a little bit and he needed to offload players, and you could actually see that we were probably paying players a little bit too much. If 6 players, and 3 of those were academy players, right? So they can't have been on much at all. That's a worrying sign of how high the wages were for our first team if we've dropped 5 million in a year there. The big factor in that, though, that I want to bring in as well, that makes it look a little bit better, is Rhodes went on loan that season.
Is that when he went to Norwich for the season?
Yeah, so if they paid all his wages and say he's on 25k, when he comes back into the 2020 figures, that adds another 1.3 million to the wage budget. So that's just a rough estimate. Like, if we're just saying Rhodes might be on more, he might be on less, but if he was on 25k at that time, that's another 1.3 million. And that's what I want to say. Accounts can be so dangerous looking into them because they can mean so many different things when you don't know the specifics. You just get an overall feel for it. The reason I said it might look a little bit better for the next season is I've pinned it down here, and I've looked at the players we released in, going into the 2019-20 season. We released George Boyd, Clark, Gary Hooper, David Jones, Marco Matthias, McCulloch, Nielsen, Conor O'Grady, Daniel Poodle, Dan Wallace, Liam Williams. We sold Lucas João to Reading. We sold Jordan Thornley to Blackpool, and we sold Ash Baker to Newport. So if you think about the amount of players in there that were in and around the first team, we did do a bit of balancing of the books. That looks like the first year we actually did a bit of balancing of the books.
Also, we released Abdi.
Yes, we did. Sorry, he was at the top. Sorry, yeah. Abdi was gone as well there. Yeah, he just wasn't in my formatting properly. So that, you would think that, maybe 2019-20, the accounts are going to look better and maybe we've carried on decreasing that wage bill because the turnover is only 22 million. We can't spend 32 on wages. We need to bring that down, So otherwise, because you are allowed to make a loss, but only of 13 million. We need to keep it in that range.
It's really weird because you look at this and it's how I imagine someone who never played Football Manager goes about it and just signing everyone and then realising they've got to balance the books and stuff.
And then they wonder why their financial rating, good with finances, is in the red. Yeah. Because the clubs just kept bankrolling it and going, you are going to make us go into admin. The one thing I want to say, though, is, yes, that if you look at it from that aspect, it'll be peachy. We'll bring the wage bill down even more. We might make, even without the stadium sale, which obviously boosted us because the stadium went down as, I think it was 36, 39, 36. So that is a big offset. You think, right, we need to shift a good, another 8 million to keep it rapidly decreasing off that wage bill. However, I think we probably did reduce the wage bill slightly, but we did bring in Luongo, Burner, Harris, Adebayo. We also brought in Urhoghide, but his contract was probably negligible at that point in terms of the overall picture. If we learned our lesson by this point, the sales of João and all the release players, if we signed those four, like Luongo, Burner, Harris, and Adebayo, if we did those with the rebuild and the newer mentality of Chansiri was a little bit more experienced at this time, if we look at it from that angle, then maybe the 1920 accounts will be a little bit healthier. But you've also got to factor in we loaned Murphy, Wickham, Windass that season as well. Murphy, I reckon we got a good deal on the Murphy one. I think we got a good deal on Wickham as well. Yeah, I reckon actually we probably got those for next to nothing because they wanted the players to go out. They weren't doing anything. There was a lot of talk on the internet, as there always is, that there was concerns about Wednesday going forward, because actually there's a segment in there that says there's actually concerns about the current financial situation and the world situation. And people were going, because it basically said that the club wouldn't be able to continue as a current business in its current model if there was no financial support. However, a lot of people were ignoring the line, purposely ignoring the line to cause drama. I mean, we might speculate, but we're not trying to cause drama unnecessarily. They were getting rid of the line that it said that the that the owner was going to make the funds available.
And this is the thing that I've had all week from people saying, just get rid of Chansiri, we sort it out. And then Chansiri's the only thing bankrolling the club at the minute. So you get rid of Chansiri, you don't no one paying the wages.
Whether you like him or not,
understanding.
Exactly. I understand why you wouldn't like him. You could all say, well, he got us into this situation. Yes, he did. But if you want him out, let him clean up his mess first. Because if we don't get someone that can bankroll the club come in, we are in such a limbo state in Wednesday at the minute. And these have said it a little bit more. A lot of people are concerned.
And he has said he's looking for investment.
He is. I reckon he's trying to balance the books, make it a saleable asset, and go, you know what, I've had enough now. I'm off. And I respect that. Because the best thing you can do is do that, right?
Yeah.
Balance the club and give it somebody else to have a go if he's gonna go.
It also means that any other business adventure he wants to do, he's not going to have something like you put this business in administration. It doesn't look good if you want to start something else. Because he's still quite a young bloke in terms of his age, and it's one of those things. Yes, he got us into this mess, but I don't think he wants to leave us in this mess. Because we don't have a Milan that's going to swoop in again at the minute. And people keep saying to me, look at Derby, look at Sunderland, look at Ipswich, they're getting bought. There's a difference though. They are clubs at a decent price to get bought at. There's a price Chansiri want to sell at, and you got to hit that asking price. If he wants to go lower and get rid of the club, then that's on him. But if he wants, say, it is 150 million, that's what he wants. and you got to put in everything else like the stadium and all that kind of stuff.
38 million, by the way, I've got on this. It might be around that, but I think I rounded it to 38 million for selling the stadium. And you've got to remember that we'll give you the exact figures, well, rounded figures, which means we would have made a £90 million loss for that season without it, right? Without the sale of the stadium, which is why it's important. I do think he is resetting. Looking at the players releasing the sales, you look at the accounts, you can see why we made certain decisions. If you actually look at it, it's not as doom and gloom as people are making out. It is just a case of that was our period of like, okay, it's not happened. We've not got promoted. We've rolled the dice. We need to reel it back in for a couple of seasons now. And yes, it's been crap as a fan, but from a financial aspect, I can see how things have slotted into place. I don't know about yourself, Jake.
But I also think that's why you're seeing us not get a lot of contracts sorted early doors like we used to, where they'd be quite quick getting people in. I think he took his time with the manager, and I think he's going to take his time with who want to sign a new deal as such, because there can be certain players that want to sign a new deal, but maybe don't want to do League One if we go down to League One. And I say if, because you could still get out of it. We don't see it as fans, but we could still technically get out of it. There's still point there to get out. I don't see it. But if it does, then it puts us in a better position.
It does.
Those players.
This is also one of those things that, like, we constantly get asked about what's going to happen if we go down to League One. We talk about it every week, yet people still ask us. I'm like, just watch the podcast. Listen to the podcast. But that means financially, you look at the TV money, 8 million for the TV money is a massive thing to lose if you look at our current finances. The one thing about finances that we're interested in is also a little bit worrying if you think about we actually use this to balance those finances that year, is the confidential settlement agreement of £6,475,000. Now, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that if I allegedly say that the confidential settlement agreement was for Steve Bruce and his staff.
Yeah, and I messaged you and went, hang on a minute. Because
it was reported at the time as 4 million, right?
Yeah.
That's possibly just for Bruce alone. I reckon
that's our best second high selling ever. And there's a lot of Newcastle fans who have read this and have gone, we paid how much?
Yeah. You got his team. I reckon you got Bruce for 4 million. And I reckon you got his team for 2,475k. A bit of an odd number there, but I reckon you got they were probably individuals that were added up rather than a collective.
But to be fair, it was nice for us to do something like that on someone else, and then it happened to us. Because the amount of times
we've just
that
obviously
we've had
poached more as well, haven't we? So
yeah,
I've put given the way it's all played out, and potentially I've still got some Newcastle fans from when we talked about the Bruce situation at the time. I want to know everyone's thoughts on this. How do you think it's played out for both teams? Do you think it was a good deal for Wednesday? Because I can see this from different angles. Newcastle fans, let me know in the comments, do you think it was a good thing for you? I probably know your answer to that one now.
For us, I think it could have been a bad thing because we could have had that stability. He was starting to build something. He brought in the likes of Iorfa. He had good things. And he was starting to get something going. The way he left it didn't help us. If he said at the start of the transfer window that he was going, then we could go, right, end of season, fair enough. You tried your best. It's your boyhood club. Off you go. A Newcastle side, they didn't want him to start with. A lot of them didn't want him to start with. I'm very good friends with one of the YouTubers on here that does Newcastle stuff. And he said he never wanted in the first place. He's a good championship manager. He's just not a good premiership
Premier League, you're going to have to start saying
Premier
that,
League,
we're going to get so much grief. I know it's negligible, but I've said negligible about 5 times today. I apologise. But yeah, I think at the time, I still feel like the Bruce thing was the destabilisation of our club. So even though it's that's a good chunk of change for that sort of move
in the way. Though.
And the way he was poached. I think the timing of the move and the fact that we were left in limbo and the players actually seemed to want to play for Bruce.
That was our rebuild. But that was our rebuild season as well. That was meant to be the restart season. And I think there was a list of players who was ready to get in. And then that all went to mess, basically. It just didn't work, did it?
No,
We were all expecting that to be the rebuild season, a full season of Bruce in charge, get it all done and dusted. We go again.
I was so positive in that summer. I remember that because it's different. It's a different thing. Obviously, Newcastle were gutted to get him, and we were kind of like angry and gutted that he went because I think, I'll be honest, he has kept Newcastle in the Prem, and obviously it looks like it's going to be more of a challenge for that this season. But overall, it's been a case of, I think he would have been a very solid Championship manager, and he could have. We were in a position when Bruce took over to push for the playoffs and push for promotion.
Nearly got it as
even
well.
automatics. Do you know when he came? Yeah, when he came in at the back end of that season, we were so close to just creeping in the playoffs after an awful start to the season.
It felt like that first season under Carlo where we went on that massive run just to get playoffs, and we all thought that might happen, and it started to slip.
Yeah,
but you also heard back then things about things not being right behind the scenes, i.e., whatever it was. That's where we started getting cracked that something not right. And it's where we started hearing more of that, wasn't it? About players maybe not being right or injuries or, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, but he also did bring in is it I can't say his name, Strudwick?
Tony
Is he still here? Yeah, I don't know why I've just gone to you for pronunciation. I apologize.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But he did bring him in, and he did, for a while, we did seem to have a better injury sort of situation. Now it's gone to crap again, but
I don't think it's as bad as it has been, but I think you can't use this season as a proper tally for injury because they've not had a proper pre-season.
No,
you've not
that's
had that
true.
chance to recover. This season is an anomaly in itself.
What's annoying is like it's a telltale sign as well. Injuries this season could send us down. But yeah, I think the Bruce thing at this,
it's interesting.
Yeah, with some of our best players have been injured this season. But the Bruce thing, I think it's a good amount of money at the time because if you think about reinvesting it, but the way it destabilized our club, and you could say that it's just a coincidence. It was always going to happen. Maybe Bruce would have fallen off. I saw these players realizing that, well, this is a manager that's got so many teams promoted from this league. It's what he does. He gets teams out of this league. You know?
And I think when we got third under Monk, we were still on that like little wind of Bruce stuff going on. The biggest thing Bruce did was bringing the recruitment team. That's still here.
Yeah,
they're still
unfortunately,
here.
we're letting some of the players that were recruited in that go on freeze. But yeah, I want to know because this is obviously a thing with Wednesday fans and Newcastle fans. With Newcastle fans, do you wish you'd have gone elsewhere? Do you wish you'd have backed Rafa? I remember at the time I was so shocked that they didn't back Rafa and then spent like, what's it, 40 odd million on Joe Linton, and then he did nothing or something. And it's interesting. You wouldn't give Rafa money, but you give Bruce money. I tell you what, we'd have taken Rafa the other way.
Yeah, I never understood that.
I think we got a good deal financially, but in terms of the way it destabilised the club, for me, I think we'd have been better off with Bruce staying for a little bit longer.
There is part of me that also sees that figure that maybe Chancellor was edging for about 7 million.
Maybe,
you know what I mean?
he was trying to negotiate for it.
He was. To be fair, he was hardballing with Mike Ashley, and that's very hard to do.
Well, when we got Murphy the other way, I think they probably gave him us without us paying any wages. So that's possibly where that came in as well, because obviously Bruce kept him around, and we obviously wanted him to stay. He had a great link with the club, but probably something very well to do with that deal. Well, he did say that he was trying to help us out. So even though he called himself the devil in Sheffield. But yeah, that's probably not as good as I used to be able to do it. But Steve Bruce, interesting one to talk about. Yeah, let's move on. And another one, and more fan engagement, and it's the fan engagement panel. We've got the notes
we heard about.
Here. Yeah,
we heard about, and then suddenly this week it's like when they just gone to the IT like we need to shove all this on the website in the next 2 days because I think this was like back to back.
Yeah, there was
when it happened.
So, we're going to start. I'm going to read it you again because it's interesting reading some of this because we asked on the podcast probably a couple of weeks before this. We wanted this went before Moore was appointed. We specifically asked Chansiri this. So thank you whoever took this question and fired it at Chansiri. I'm sorry, you don't really get an answer. I'll read it all out for you. So the question was, what is the short, medium, and long-term plan for Sheffield Wednesday? Can the chairman outline his vision for the next 5 years and how the club plan to achieve this? So I'll read you the response and I'll read you what actually was said in the notes. DC opened by saying, please bear in mind the language barriers. He always does, right words, misinterpreted, all of that. Paraphrasing. Moving to the first agenda point, DC said he addressed this situation in detail in media briefings and club statements, but was happy to reiterate. DC said football is a unique business with budgets made on a season-by-season basis, not the same as regular business. Planning too far ahead is very difficult depending on divisional status. DC stressed that I can't say it. DV stressed that the current world situation has impacted significantly on future planning regardless, not just at Wednesday, but football clubs around the world. DC explained that the club did its best to push for promotion in 15-16 and 16-17, but fell short, so he had to step back and reassess. I like that bit. Step back and reassess. You definitely have to do that, especially financially. A rebuild process was necessary, but there are no guarantees in football. DC said, of course, he is aware of the criticism of recruitment, but it's easier to judge any player with hindsight. Every player wants to give their best, and sometimes players prove not to be right for the club, and so sometimes they prove right for the club, and sometimes not. Football is not players can't just. I'll start that again. Players cannot just be let go if transfers do not work out. Football is not like normal business because contracts are in place. DC said they came close to the Premier League twice, and the rebuild, he basically repeated himself. The every club has the same ambitions, but those with parachute money have the advantage, and every signing is made with the best intention. The football will always come first, and the budget has to separate the day-to-day running of the club. DC said in the back office he'll always try and improve the club back office level and every level where possible. DC stated that revenues have been higher than any time in the past, pre-pandemic, and the club will always look at every which way to generate revenue. Regarding the stadium, DC explained its age, design, and location makes it difficult to facilitate particular improvements, but it will always improve areas where necessary and feasible. Where is that? The short, medium, long-term plan for Sheffield Wednesday Football Club?
There isn't. It's just him going, I said this before, but I'll say it all again.
I've just said a lot of words. And some of you probably zoned out. But
none of that says about a short, medium, long-term plan.
We know you want to do best for the club, DC, but that's not an answer. And obviously we weren't in the room, so I don't know if he was pressed on that. But you've got to press him on that. You've got to be like, right, but what are we doing this season?
It does feel like...
What are the plans for next season at the minimum?
The line I got that I like throughout all this is football is not like a normal business. Yes, we understand that football's not like a normal business. We're just happy you finally learnt that, because for a period you did say this, and you said so many times that you didn't say it. You had a Guy Fawkes interview who said, I treat the players like family, and then you went back on it. In football, players are your sellable assets. This is what gets you revenue. The one thing you've been really poor at, and whatever the reason, you hold on for players for too long, or when an offer comes in, you don't go, well, I should sell him, but then I can reinvest. You automatically go, I want this money. If it's not that, I don't want it. You can't do that in football. If a good offer comes in, it may only come in once. And if that one offer comes in, you sometimes have to look at the big picture and go, you know what, that's going to fund my transfer budget for my next manager next season or in January. You can pick up someone else. I think, yes, he's slowly getting to grips how a football club works, if that makes sense. But it coming at a cost to the club itself. And the stadium, yeah, we know it's old. Yeah, we know it's not in an ideal position. The stadium bit makes me sound like you want to sell it and relocate us.
Yeah. I don't want
I don't know where you will relocate us, though.
I also don't want that, because it's very convenient for me on match days at the minute. So please don't do that. But also, I've been going there since I was little. As most people who are Wednesday fans listening to this podcast are.
For me and my wife, we got married there. We literally call it church because we got married there.
Yeah, I used to always say I'm going to church, whenever I go in a match and things like that. And it's just, it's a lot of identity. It's very difficult, because that is where you find the lines of disconnect. But I wouldn't, get us to the Premier League before you even talk about doing anything with the stadium, right? Because you've still got one of the biggest grounds in the Championship, potentially one, the way it's going. That's how well it's gone, Chansiri.
And the thing is, I don't want us to have a stadium where it's in an industrial park. I like that the club is S6. It's based in Hillsborough. It's Hillsborough Stadium.
The only thing that would be good, right, is, and I know this is going to annoy a lot of people, and I don't necessarily want this myself. I understand it, but parking is a nightmare, right? And if we were a Premier League club and we ended up, the plastics come on board, right, which happens... Yeah. We've seen it happen. That is the only time where, like, if we're starting to get, like, where we could fill it full of, like, 50,000 a week, right? That is where you start to go, well, we can't expand the stadium to that sort of thing. And we need to get somewhere with a big parking complex. Because I will tell you one thing. The one thing I did like about, even though it's not got much character or anything yet, and it's just a stadium, I've been to the Etihad a couple of times. And the parking there is ideal.
Yeah. Well, you know, the whole Etihad, how they do it, with how they've got like the training complex around where the stadium is. I've always thought if we could buy Hillsborough Park and use that as a similar thing. But that wouldn't fly because Hillsborough Park would never get sold.
Yeah, and then it'd annoy too many people if Hillsborough Park got sold.
The thing is, if he does move it, there isn't anywhere in Sheffield to build.
There is, but it's just not great areas for the club. You know, it's difficult. I think
he's been trying to move the training ground.
This is the thing. The only way to really do it, if you're going to expand that stadium, is it's going to take a lot of money, and it's going to take. You're probably going to have to demolish a couple of streets. Yeah. You have to take a few people's houses out. Now, that's happened in certain situations. And obviously, there'll be so much pushback against that. It's a rock and a hard place. And I get it. You don't want to lose if you've always lived next to the stadium, you don't want to lose your house next to the stadium. That's part of the buzz of it. But
the people I know who have literally bought houses around there because they can say, oh, Hillsborough's in my back garden.
Yeah, exactly. You'd need to get rid of the streets because just off Leppings Lane side, you'd probably have to knock back there a little bit and go that way maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
but also with the development that they're apparently putting like an Audi across the road where the car park used to be that Wednesday used to use. That ground has now been piece of land has now been sold.
Oh, so we got less parking. Right, yeah. Okay. Just thought we obviously we go off on tangents. It happens, but it is to do with the club. So just a couple of brief points. In terms of ticket refunds, if for some reason you've come to this podcast for that information, he says he'll eventually get them even if he left the club, which is an interesting thing to say. But he says that we are committed to honouring the season ticket refunds, but if he plans to stay around for a couple of years, you might not be getting them for a while. He talks a lot about outreach. We're not really going to go into that. The club does things, and we do want to praise them where they do things in the community. Yeah. Go check all the talks out about that. It's all in the accounts as well, the outreach programs, things like that. I'm really proud of the club for doing that. We should be doing that. Every football club should be doing that. Brilliant. Talks about bringing Els in the park back as well. Is gutted it's sort of been gone for 2 years. I do think that's an important thing. It doesn't feel like that long ago we were actually there, but then again, time's kind of just gone into a massive stasis chamber, hasn't it, really?
Last one was Steve Bruce saying he was
I know. I was there. It was
same.
It was that was before we even spoke as well, I think.
I remember
how time changes.
I remember my wife punching me in the ribs at House in the Park and saying he's off. His body language said he's going.
It's interesting that. I remember they had the owls display from the sanctuary. And I was being a massive child, and like this mother pushed it. I was going to get me and Soph were there, right? And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll hold an owl. So I was stood there like queuing, and this group of like two mothers with the children just pushed in front of me and Sophie because they had children, and I was like, hold on! I didn't actually say that. I kind of just sort of like tutted and left, but I was like, just because you've got British. A child that wants to see the owl, like, I would like to see and hold the owl too. And I was not very happy at that point. It's in the vlog, actually. I think when I vlogged it at that time, I was like, not having
think
this.
I remember
I didn't put the
watching that
people
as
in,
well.
obviously. Yeah, we weren't too best pleased, but yeah, better days those. Okay, so back into the business of we're still on the fan engagement panel. The question asked, who is running the club on a day-to-day basis with Mr. Chansiri in Thailand and the absence of any CEO or COO? Who is making the decisions? Could these people be invited on a regular basis to answer permanent questions to future meetings? DC explained he has an experienced senior management team with whom he has daily contact on the day-to-day, and the day-to-day decisions are made as a collective. DC makes board-level decisions. He stressed that he's working harder in Thailand and he would prefer to be here in Sheffield. That he would here in Sheffield. Same thing. DC expressed his frustration at not being able to facilitate his normal. There's a lot of words there, I apologise. DC expressed his frustration at not being able to facilitate his normally regular UK visits given the pandemic. And then they talked about how the panel meetings had evolved over time with senior staff. Maybe that was one of the actions that was taken from it. As these meetings, they get actions, they get things that are going to be acted upon, basically. And that was in the notes. The senior staff might come to these.
About the running of the club, I do feel like he needs somebody in Sheffield on a ground level instead of him doing it via Zoom or his group of people. Because
I will say something though, CEOs can be dangerous because I was speaking to someone recently that was telling me a bit more about CEOs at clubs, and obviously I'm not going to go into any details on that one, but Chansiri keeping everybody on during this pandemic was a massive thing, right?
Yeah,
and people not losing their jobs. There's a lot of clubs that the CEO has actually made the decision to be off-ski staff, basically. And these are staff that have got families and are on not great wages anyway, considering the young lad who's 16 that's in the academy is on more than them, you know.
Well, would you do what like Spurs do? So Spurs have it that they've got an owner, but then they've got a chairman kind of thing, and do it that way. Well,
yeah, he's the kind of CEO as well, though, isn't he? Daniel Levy does run everything with it, but it's. I would say that if we can get the right person in, but I've never seen, like, if you watch any of the documentaries, they always come across, it is football as a business there. So if it benefited the club, I'd be for it, but just be cautious with CEOs. However, I think Chansiri is pretty much a CEO.
Yeah.
Because he's not got the football knowledge. What Chansiri needs is he needs proper football advisors and sporting directors and things like that in place. He can do the CEO and the business side of it because Chansiri is a businessman. He's not a football man. He's becoming a football man. But
be careful what you say there, because there's a lot of people who don't think he's a businessman, even though he is.
Well, he is, right. If you actually look at, he's a businessman. A lot of people say, well, no, it's his family. If you look at his business perspective, it might, in your opinion, he might not be a good businessman, and that's a fair one. But he is our businessman. So yeah. Are there any plans for restructure and re-employment of middle management to help running the club on a day-to-day business? What's the long-term situation with advisors? Obviously, we're not actually talking about it. Did we put Eric Alonso in this? We didn't, did we?
No, we didn't.
Looking to buy Derby, maybe.
Put it at the end.
Maybe, we'll see. We've got a lot to talk about today. So that a bit of a chancer, maybe, allegedly. So yeah, he's just reiterated that he's looking to bring the best in for the club. You know, he's always brought in the people with the right skill sets. There's a lot of nothing answers in this. He says, we readily acknowledge the inherent unpredictabilities of running a professional football club. We also concede the effects of the pandemic and the uncertainty over our league status have blown off course any imminent prospects for a return to the Premier League. This is interesting for the future, by the way. For this reason... Oh, no, this wasn't Chansiri. Sorry. I've skipped ahead. This is what... Because I was like, hang on, this is way too transparent. Way too transparent. This is what the panel at the end have said they'd want to see. So this is from their notes. So they said all of that about the Premier League. So they've sort of accepted on behalf of the fan base that we ain't going to the Premier League. For this reason, we would like to see, or at least outline, a more clearly defined targeted development plan aimed at survival in the Championship or a first season promotion from League One. that is what was asked, and they didn't press it, right? Or whatever. I want to know what happened in that room, because that is the only question that was asked of any relevance, in my opinion. I've put in here that there's so many talk, and I get this about income streams, but there's talks about what kind of beer do we want? What kind of cafe do we want? What kind of refreshments do we want at the ground? And that's the thing that Chancery has asked for feedback on. And I'm like, that is the least of our worries. And it just felt...
I don't care what beer or what pie I can get. I'll have anything within reason.
It's honestly, because it says here, and I'm not, obviously, this panel have got to tread on fine ground, because if they push Chancery too far, he could easily just push back. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those, but it's like, regarding the matchday experience, the panel has also put forward suggestions such as BeerJet UK, and the Yo-Yo app, with ideas of video links such as Cafe Nero's award-winning payments and a loyalty app. Yes, that's all great for the business side of it. The main focus here is the one question that we all want to know as a fan base he didn't answer. So for me, I feel like this was, oh yeah, a great way of talking to Chancery, but he didn't tell us anything, you know? And I would like more football-related questions to be asked towards Chancery, because we've heard all of this before. And I understand this was the first panel meeting, and I think, obviously, the people there were probably in a very difficult situation. But we need to make sure that the questions lined up are football-based. Basically, someone needs to step up and not give him any wiggle room, and see if he either shuts the whole thing down or, you know, he actually answers it. Because I think he always...
when we had the Sterling committee, people did give him a bit. Yeah, when we had the
supporters meals and things like that.
Yeah, and people did not let him wiggle out of stuff. And it got shut down, and then you go to another one, that person would not be there. They wouldn't be invited back.
That's the point.
That's the issue.
We're never getting invited to one of these, are we? To be fair though, like
you rocking up with your pale ales ready to go.
I feel like we don't ever overly criticize. We offer a criticism and we understand the other side of it, but we also, I've never been a person in real life to just ignore things, or, you know, just I also can say from a business perspective, if something is what I don't like to hear, I can acknowledge it. But I also think that, like, valid criticism should be valid. And I think there is a bit of a nervousness with general Wednesday stuff to ask the questions, and that's just in general. That's in
the whole thing of, like, if you're a kid at school putting your hand up to ask the question, you don't want to, just in case it's wrong, or you're not allowed. You know what I mean? It's a strange one with Chancey, because he is doing the right thing by having the panel there and talking to fans. Granted, yes, we didn't get picked for it. Fair enough, that is what it is. But there are people there on different things. There are different fan outlets and fan community projects and stuff. I think sometimes with this one, you have to talk a little bit more about the football and possibly a little bit less about the business, because we don't know the day-to-day runnings of the club in terms of money and stuff. And quite frankly, as long as the club's still there and it's still running okay and we're still managing to get by, I'm okay with that. I think sometimes the fans in a day with Twitter, we want to know everything.
Well, yeah, you
don't need to.
It's one of those where, like, also, Chancery probably doesn't want people pushing him, because I think with the case of, he thinks that we'll abuse him, like, and things like that. It's one of those things that, like, there is that, you know, and it's one of those where, like, we've always taken a massive stance on this podcast of any abuse in indirect, or we've actually had people in our community say, well, oh yeah, you should be giving Shaw stick and say, like, things, and like, if I want to give him stick on Twitter and stuff, we can. And I'm like, no, we don't.
Let's put it this way on the Shaw thing. We're recording this on Friday. Today is Liam Shaw's birthday. The club put a tweet out saying, "Happy birthday, Shaw." Just do not look at some of the tweets on that. It's horrible what people have said.
The thing that gets me, right, and it gets me in general, is I don't buy into the football Twitter culture. It's also a case of, like, people say, why are you, like, growing in this way and you're not doing this and you're not doing this and you're not doing this? And I'm like, because I know, and I've seen it before, what brings abuse to people. And I want to kind of, like, have a safe criticizing, a safe place for criticism without abuse. But too many people don't know where that line is, and because they think, well, I'm a good person. It's honestly the whole world situation at the minute is also a case of like, well, I'm not like that, and I'm not going to go into too many things. But there's a current situation, it's a horrific situation where a lot of guys are turning around and going, well, I'm not like that, so that's all right. But that kind of attitude doesn't have any room for self-growth or reflection, because I also try and think of like how things are perceived on the other end. When people have come across to me and they've tried to throw some abuse at me or whatever, or they've just tried to like, maybe they don't, when I'm reading something on a screen, something might actually seem like it's to somebody saying it, they might say it in a joking manner, but I come across and I read it and I don't hear their voice, I don't hear that. They don't think about how it's perceived. Exactly. And then there are some people that will just try and out and out abuse you. You can be a good person and still make mistakes and not see how you're perceived with other people.
And the other thing is, the internet, people think there's an animosity of being, no one can find me on the internet. That's not the case. Like we had it during one of your streams where it was like, look, you're using Google platform. They have your information.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot. Just be smart about it.
No, well, it's one of those, yeah. Obviously, YouTube's there's a lot of tools we can keep things safe with, but that's why we're on this platform and why I don't like trust Twitter as much and things, because they're not as good. They do have stuff, but they're not as rapid with things, and they're not as safe. You can actually be quite vile on Twitter, and it takes a couple of days to get anything sorted.
And again, I know we've gone on a tangent again with this one, but I think it's a
podcast, that's what happens. Okay, so this is a bit of the podcast where it might be a little bit
shall we just say speculation warning?
Yes,
speculation.
However, we're not bringing it ourselves. This is reported. No. This has mainly come. Both of these links have come from Yorkshire Live. So, Sheffield Wednesday wireman Kadeem Harris. What?
Oh, speculation corner. Sorry, I just had a bloody Top Gear reference go in my head halfway through that. Don't worry.
Are we carrying on? Are we carrying on, mate?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, I might even keep that in because that was funny. Sheffield Wednesday wireman Kadeem Harris has attracted the interest of a number of Championship clubs. We've been recording for quite a while. Yorkshire Live understands that Middlesbrough are big admirers of Harris, whose present hours contract expires at the end of the season. Borough boss Neil Warnock, previously worked with a 27-year-old at Cardiff City, could be a player Wednesday have to move on if we have to rebuild in League One. Could we make a good profit off him? Probably not, because he's going for free. I've just noticed you put a good profit off him. His contract's running out.
Oh yeah.
I let Jake do the notes on this, and I've read it.
Wait, hang on a minute. I'm sure. Is he actually out of contract in summer?
It's got to be.
I thought he had another year left.
Nope. This is going well today, mate.
I know. I'm sure he had another year left.
Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock.
Okay, I'll take your word for it then. I thought we had it.
Honestly, I'm pretty certain his contract runs out. Because he signed a 2-year deal when he came on.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Under
okay,
Bruce.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So, it looks like, even though he left Cardiff under Warnock, that's what's confusing me about this. So,
why would he want him back after he didn't? Was it a case that the player wanted to leave and have a different change?
Well, he wasn't getting game time properly, and I remember at the time a lot of Cardiff fans were like, "Why is he off? He's got promise for us and all of that." But I think it'd be a good signing for Middlesbrough. The problem is though, you can probably see all these lining up, and even if they weren't, I can't. Kadeem Harris is one of our only outlets, so it's pretty much written in Sheffield Wednesday nature that he's off. Yeah. You know.
And certain players are off depending on what league we are in anyway, aren't they? Let's be honest.
I think Kadeem Harris is definitely championship quality. He's inconsistent. That's the only thing with Kadeem Harris. But this season, everyone's playing for a contract with another club, pretty much. It's like usually they're playing for a contract with Wednesday. Now they're playing to impress other clubs. And Kadeem Harris is one of those. He's been decent for us at the back end of this season in a poor team. I could see him going to Middlesbrough. I could see him doing well under Warnock. Is he a Warnock-style player? Possibly, because he'd be the pace outlet to because he doesn't use much in that way, but Warnock does occasionally use pace outlets and that's his only creativity in his sides. So it'd be interesting to see.
We know that he got a good cross on him.
Yeah,
that's one thing that we haven't utilised the entire time he's been here.
And he can beat a man. I think Kadeem Harris is one that would actually be better for us to give him a short-term deal and just try and flog him, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I've lost the will to live in terms of players staying with us now. And everybody goes to us, well, he's not gone yet. This is just speculation. Of course it's just speculation. That's all that the press do, and we're also talking about it because it's linked in the press. And it's realistic. Kadeem Harris is one of the likely ones to go. Yeah. Another likely one to go is Jordan Rhodes. So Jordan Rhodes could be off to
Huddersfield. Linked with Cardiff.
Linked with Cardiff, yeah. So Yorkshire Live understands that Huddersfield Town are pondering a summer move for the experienced striker Rhodes, who was also recently linked with Cardiff City. So I could see the Huddersfield move happening possibly more than the Cardiff one, because Rhodes would not fit a Cardiff side for me. He did well at Norwich, but Huddersfield, there's a link there. He wouldn't have to move too far. He's been there before. He's 31. He could go on a free.
He had his best season at Huddersfield.
If they stay up and we go down, as much as I'd actually think that Rhodes is one of the players I'd want to give a contract to, I could see him going to...
Ooh, that's interesting, because a lot of people would say no.
No, I'd want him on a much reduced deal, but I think he'd rip up League One. That's my... But then again, you've got Patterson, who would also probably do quite well in that league. So I could see... What do you where do you stand on the Rhodes one specifically?
Rhodes, I think, for me personally, I think Rhodes is one of those ones where he's been here a long time. It's just not worked for him. There's certain players that it just doesn't work. And I think that's just what it is with Rhodes. I think we all wanted the Rhodes that we've seen at other clubs. And we called for every bloody transfer before he came. Said, Jordan Rhodes is coming. And then when it actually did happen, I don't think anyone believed it. I think it's one of those players that it just didn't work. And whenever he's gone other places out on loan, he's done well. We come back to us and then go back down again. I think there's just something there. I don't know if it was built up too much by other players or what. It seems like every manager that come in has said he works really hard. He's a really good trainer. He's a good lad. Fair play to him. It just, for some reason, it's not worked out at Wednesday.
I thought, the thing is as well, he's also give us signs and glimmers that he might kick on and be the Rhodes that he used to be. So, like, when he had that hat-trick at Forest under Monk, was it Monk? I think it was Monk. Yeah, and it was like, oh my God, he's even getting Rhodes firing. Rhodes might be back. It was
like he's back.
Yeah, and then he fell off, and then...
We got that goal against Bournemouth this season.
Yeah, it was under Thompson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We had he scored like 2 goals in 3 games, and we were like, okay. I think he scored in consecutive games actually as well. So we were like, is Rhodes coming back? Is this the time we get Jordan Rhodes when we're on a relegation dip and maybe he keeps us up? But it's just not worked. And yes, the only reason I say maybe keep him around is because of League One. He'd be a good striker there, but we probably have other options that are going to cost us a lot less. So for me, I would be gutted because of the money aspect, but from an actual Rhodes aspect, I can see him. He'd probably go to Huddersfield and probably bag a few. He's never fit in with the Wednesday system as much as he should have, right? As much as he should have fit in with this club, he never did. And I think he's obviously gone out. When he went to Norwich, he thrived. For me, the Cardiff move wouldn't work as well as the Huddersfield Town move, but you do need to provide him service. So if Huddersfield do get him, they need to make sure the wingers can cross it straight on his head, because he is still that poacher he used to be. So 31 years old, it'd be a good signing on a free, and I think if you bought him back up, but I don't think financially he's probably one of our bigger earners. We can really afford him if we go down, whereas I can see him just jumping ship. And if we do go down, I don't think Rhodes will be with us. So Huddersfield Town fans, Cardiff fans, if you're finding this, let us know what you think in the comments about him coming to your club. But no, it'll be a bit sad, but I could live with it. What about you? Same thing there?
Yeah, ditto. I think it's not worked really. And if you look at the player we brought in at the same time, a row with Sam Winnell, he's not really pulling it up for Oxford at the minute. in League
God,
One
yeah.
or League Two, whatever it is. So it's like, I think it was the ones we had Winnall and we're like, right, we're going to build a team around you, and then suddenly we managed to get Rhodes and that fell through.
Yeah.
There was what he was meant to be the player to build around, and then we managed to get the Rhodes deal done. And they're just two strikers that did not work together.
It will be lovely, though, our club record signing and going on a free. So enjoy in Huddersfield if you get.
And our second club record signing going on a free in Adam H.
Yeah, we're not 100% sure on that one yet. There's still contract talks, apparently. But I still think that's going to happen.
So I put this in the show note because we've had a whole situation of figures and finances this year. This week, even this year. With financial fair play doesn't work, and there are actual graphics that actually show wages go up year on year since 2013.
So yeah, this topic, I'm letting Jake lead on this topic, as you can probably tell. He didn't even let me finish my sentence. Eager beaver. Yes. This is about financial fair play failures, because we've been talking a lot about financial fair play. I'm going to let Jake dive into this because he's got all the groundwork for this. So, as I've been saying, and I've said it all along, it doesn't work. It's a system that doesn't work. This kind of proves me right. Go for it, Jake.
So, if anybody knows Price of Football, Kieran Maguire, the one that everybody seems to go for on the financial side of football, he's very knowledgeable. I think even the Star had him on this week to speak to Joe Crane about our accounts and trying to explain it, because those accounts came out and everyone was like, I need help. We all went, we need help.
Is Joe Crane the parallel universe version of Joe Cran?
Yeah.
Right. Carry on.
So they got graphics here, and you can even find out every time more money has come into Championship, such as increased solidarity payments from the Premier League, it appeared to go straight out again in the form of higher wages. Note 2019 figures for Derby and us are the same as 2018's accounts were not published at the time. They are now. So if you look in 2013, it was kind of getting there, but the big jump was 2017. And there was a huge jump between the wages and the income kind of thing. And the big problem you have then, and that's the year we were really going for it, wasn't it? It was that kind of second chance with Carlos. So we did spend a lot of money. I think we got Fletcher in that summer and kind of thing. You got Rhodes in, we got Reach in. So we did, our income and turnover wasn't great. But it slowly came back down again on income coming in, but wages were still high. Now, it is starting to shift a little bit due to the ongoing current events in the world. I nearly said the word. But it does seem odd that EFL introduced financial fair play in 2013, and there haven't been any improvements in the Championship to control it. Everyone keeps spending more money. And I don't know
they're rolling the dice and just going, oh, we might get financially put, but it's not stopped anything, right? Because at the end of the day, it just doesn't work.
No.
And
you either let owners spend what they want and go for it, or you don't.
And that -6 is going to relegate us.
I
mean, we'd still be in a battle without it, but I bet you when we get relegated, 6 points would have saved us.
If we get relegated, I'm still being positive. There's still enough games to get out of it. I don't think there is.
Then again, this is going up after the Norwich match. Watchers have smashed Norwich 5-0. That's not going to have happened. It's before the Norwich match, after Norwich match, depending on when you're watching it. It's going to be a long one, this one today.
What dream have you been having where we smashed Norwich?
I don't know. Well, we only perform against good clubs, apparently.
True.
Everyone else...
I'd like to know what other people think about financial fair play and how it is.
Yeah, it'd be a good opening topic. We're definitely gonna. Honestly, I don't even think that'll be a breakout this week because there's so much to talk about. Let us know in the main podcast comments about financial fair play. Do you think it's unfair to some teams, unfair to another? I know I got asked about Wednesday's situation and why I think that Wednesday can go. It's from a Birmingham fan, actually. I've not replied to you, mate. Sorry, I probably can't find your comment now. I might still reply to it. But he said, I just want to know about I don't really know much about Wednesday's thing, but you said that you'd have a blank checkbook next season. I was like, Yeah, I was exaggerating a little bit, but Wednesday's situation is a grey area because we were punished for the wrong season. So there is something in play where you can't like make another loss. You've still got to be careful the next season. But because we're a year out from it, it's actually reset us on the 3-year loss sort of thing. And even though you can't make the 1 year, I think there is some misconception. You can't make more than 13 million loss a year, or do the 39 million over 3 years. There is a way you can consolidate it, but it does tally in the 3-year thing. A lot of clubs as you can see, a lot of clubs on that graph are getting away with it by spending a lot in 1 year and balancing it out as well. So we
also don't sell players, which helps.
Helps massively, doesn't it? Talking about not selling players and actually getting rid of players without selling them.
I didn't see that, yeah.
I didn't want to talk about this again, but people were saying that, like, so is he actually gone? Is it actually official? Yes! We said it 2 weeks ago, and we said it was going to happen, and everyone was like, oh, well, it's not official. Why are you saying it's going to happen? It's definitely going to happen because there's still a chance. There's not a chance. We knew there wasn't a chance. We knew it's a formality.
Yeah.
From SWFC.co.uk, Sheffield Wednesday can confirm that midfielder Liam Shaw has signed a pre-contract agreement with Scottish Premiership side Celtic. Now, this is the interesting part, right? We are currently investigating this matter and will consider if there are any further steps available to protect this club's interest. It was not our intention to place this development to the public domain out of the respect to all parties concerned. However, we were contacted by Celtic, informing the club of their intention to formally confirm this development, which was revealed by the former Celtic manager in a media briefing. Both clubs exchanged statements in advance of a coordinated release, but Celtic have since ceased correspondence to this end. Shaw remains a Sheffield Wednesday player until the expiry of his current contract and will be available for selection for the remainder of the season. We will not make any further comment at this time.
That sounds to me like Celtic made their approach before January.
That's the only thing I can think of because the way international law works with, because it's not international, right? It's Britain, but different league law, right? In different nations' leagues, you can approach a player within 6 months of their contract. So when it hits January, you can do that. You don't really hear about it happening that much. Well, I've never really heard about it in the Championship with players going to the Scottish Prem, so it's never really been a prevalent issue. I think Scottish Prem fans, Celtic fans specifically, will go, well, that's always happened to us, you know. But going the other way, it is a bit of a grey area. Legal action against Celtic, though, is what is being hinted at. So
the only thing I can think is he wants more money in compensation.
Yeah. Shaw's right, we'll read you Liam Shaw's statement. So Shaw has said, first of all, I would like to thank everyone at Sheffield Wednesday, the owner, the staff, my teammates, and especially the supporters. After discussing the options with my family, I have decided to take on a new challenge, and so I've agreed to join Celtic, and one of the most famous and prestigious clubs in the world, on July 1st. Until the last kick of a ball of the final game of this season, I will continue to give my all for Sheffield Wednesday and help my teammates. I work hard every day in order to make my family proud. I'll always give everything in training and in games. I'm determined to contribute as much as possible to the team so we have a successful end to the season. Sheffield Wednesday is a massive and brilliant club, and I'm extremely grateful for everything the club has done for me. The club will always be special for me as I grew up as a fan, and nothing can change that for me. In the end, I've based this decision purely on football aspects. By joining Celtic next season, I will fight for a place in a team challenging for titles, trophies, and play in Europe, which is something I've always dreamed of. I am determined to play at the highest level I can possibly achieve in my career. I thank Celtic for this amazing opportunity, which is impossible for me to turn down. Right. I've talked enough about Liam Shaw and his intentions as a Wednesday fan. Yep. Celtic fans, obviously, I've got a great deal of respect for Celtic. You know, there's only two big clubs in Scotland, in my opinion, in that regard, and they're the only ones that can compete. And it's one of those. I can see why Shaw would want to go to Celtic. I get that side of it. I've always got that side of it. I'm just interested in the fact that Wednesday are actually seeking legal representation, because it is, I feel like, has he been tapped up before January? Is that a case?
That's all I can think of. All I can think of is that He's been spoke to, his agent or him and his agent have been spoke to November time when he was starting to do well and stuff and going, oh, we're interested. And that, or DC wants more compensation. This is a bit where football is football. Just let it be football and move on. Don't drag it.
Yeah.
We are very good at dragging things out when there's no need.
No.
Good luck to him. I wish him all the best. Am I gutted he's going? A little bit because he's a good talent, but it's football. Players come and go.
And also, I have been making a few jokes this week with it's only good fun, Celtic fans, but the Rangers 55 thing, because you have got Celtic links yourself, haven't you, Jake? So
yes, I have.
I couldn't do football without making the odd reference and the odd joke. But yeah, it's definitely becoming more of a two-club league again, isn't it? That league. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how Celtic. It'll be interesting to see who
Celtic bring in.
Yeah,
their manager. We have no idea yet.
That's the thing I'm interested with, and to see how Celtic readjust, because obviously Gerrard's done really good things with Rangers. He's sort of rebuilt that club. So it'll be interesting to see if Celtic can do the same sort of thing. I've been speaking to some of their fans about Liam Shaw's playtime, because they still say, we still know nothing about him. Can you tell us? And I'm like, he's still played less than 20 times for us, and he's got 2 red cards. So
is it 3? No, it's 2.
It's 2 red cards.
You got 1 at Bournemouth at home, and then that 1 at,
Yeah.
Just feels like 3. Because we spoke about him so many times.
He's in about 5 matches, he's looked like he could be an absolute baller, right, in the future. If you want my honest opinion, Celtic. But
he's not your Scotty Brown replacement, if that's what you're thinking.
He's not going to... If what I've heard about Celtic's youth development is correct, in terms of, like, they've already got a load of youth players they're not playing.
Yeah.
I don't see how
they got a load of youth team players who are leaving.
The only thing is, I can imagine that he's been given first team or squad, being part of the matchday squad assurances, because I don't know. I still feel like there is a time for a 19-year-old to even drop to League One with like Wednesday and play a full season with your boyhood club and actually, become a footballer and learn. Whereas he has played under 23s for a long time.
You know what it screams as, and it screams of what Wendy's done before. It screams as the Hurt and Claire.
Yeah, I don't even want to go down that aspect again, because we've talked about it on every breakout to do with Shaw, and it doesn't need to be spoke about. But what I genuinely think that I was thinking the other day, like this for me seeks a move that will set Shaw up probably for life if he is like a mild-mannered guy and wants to set this could be a big deal at Celtic and it could set him up for life, and he could break into that side. For me, I want to look at it from the other side. Do you back your ability that much if you take a big money deal, if you feel like you couldn't get that deal if you stayed at Wednesday for another season? Because I don't think you do. Because I feel like if I back my ability, I could still go down to League One with my boyhood club and still feel like I could get a deal like this in the future. But I do understand why he'd take it now. Do you know what I mean? It's one of the... there's the two sides of it. Does he back his ability thinking he can get into that Celtic squad? Does he back his ability thinking he could actually compete when the going gets tough with Wednesday? I wanted to offer devil's advocate there, because I always like to think there's a challenge in both. Realistically, if I took the Wednesday love out of it, would I take the massive payday at Celtic? Yes. If I was playing for any other club than Wednesday, but then again, I'm on a Wednesday podcast, so that's gonna be an element to it. But yeah,
it's official. He's going.
He's official.
We have said this.
Will we get more than the 300k mentioned? We will see. Now let's look back with some fondness at a man who was hounded out of the club eventually, but was still loved by a mass proportion of the fan base. 442, we're talking to Carlos this week. I can never pronounce his second name properly.
Carvalhal.
That's even worse than I was going to do it, Jake. Carvalhal. Yeah. It's Carvalhal, isn't it?
Something like that.
I appreciate you trying.
I will say this. This is where all the pronunciations and names went downhill for me when Carlos came in. You brought in all these players I couldn't say. I was all right when we had Smiths and Jones and Johnsons.
You're starting to sound very Brexit. Chill out.
I know, I'm not meaning to, but...
Carlos exclusive on Sheffield Wednesday. I'm an owl forever. My intuition says I'll return one day. Spicy headline. Speaking exclusively in April 2021, in the April 2021 issue of 442, available to order online now. I don't know why I've just plugged them, but I'm reading from there. I'm reading from their quote. The Portuguese discussed his 2 years in charge of the English club and the love he has felt from Wednesday supporters since. I think they miss me, but that's a reciprocal feeling. I've said that I'd like to go back in the future. My intuition tells me it will happen one day. I'm an owl forever, and those sort of situations I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. I saw them at matches a couple of times last season and was pleased to meet them. After all, no one visits a person they don't like. Our idea was to do things differently, to avoid a typical English style and break away from the past. In the beginning, we struggled a bit, playing more long balls than we wished, that led to negative results. That's talking about how it was a bit rocky to start, and in the first season we got sixth. When actually, if we'd have been a bit more consistent, we could have probably got automatics that season. It was an interesting league. Eventually, the players absorbed what we wanted. We reached the championship playoff final in the first season. And then we finished fourth. We had full control. We had full control of the club. Not even a roll of toilet paper was purchased without my knowledge. That is interesting because that says how, if that's true, how if Chansiri trusts you, you can have that relationship with him. But I feel like Carlos is the only manager who's had that relationship with him.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's the only one.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it was a case of first love. DC. First love. It was his first appointment as a manager. And it worked so well. I wonder if that first season where he saw what he could do, and then, because you've got to remember, when Carlos came in, we were all like, who? We all looked, he had 11 clubs and like, well, this ain't going to end well.
Yeah.
We already were saying that.
I mean, we're owls, so we go, a lot. I won't do that ever again. I apologise. I'm going to go and put myself in the bin. I'm in it. Right. This is the longest we've ever recorded a podcast for, and I ran out of water a little while ago, so this is going rogue now. I'm also eating a massive pizza tonight, so I'm not eating throughout that. So I'm currently running on fumes. Go on.
It's very interesting that he got given full control of everything. If you want that with Darren Moore, you need to give him the same relationship you have with Carlos with Moore, so he can run it all.
And that looks like what they're trying to develop there. Could you see Carlos ever coming back to this club? Because obviously he talks about his intuition says it's going to happen one day.
Yes, I could, but I'm always not a big fan of manager coming back to clubs he's already managed.
Why?
Because
Chelsea won the league when they brought Mourinho back. They sacked him again, but they won the league.
Yeah, but that worked. If it doesn't work, you're then known as the manager that came back to try and rekindle it. It didn't work.
Yes, but isn't it also worth a try if a manager's got a good rapport? And it's kind of like one of those situations where if you're in a relationship, not speaking from personal experience here, by the way, in any of my past relationships, but like if you leave one past relationship and then you get in another relationship in your past as well, and you realise that actually there's some things I took for granted in the first one. And you learn as you go on. Do you know what I mean? And then you obviously all them break down, and then you find what you want in life. So Chansiri might be finding what he wants in life and what he wants in a manager.
And if you actually look at what Carlos has gone and done, he's had a very good time after. Apart from the Swansea thing, that was a bit.
You can also look at it from the fan perspective, right? When I was talking about that relationship link there, we have had such crap since Carlos left. And we at the time thought we were in a really crap situation, and then you actually pile on more crap. It's kind of like, oh no, come back. You were actually great for me, you know? And it's difficult to see, because I remember I was one of the people that I think I rang into Football Heaven when Carlos was sacked, and I said,
no.
Yeah, first time and only time I ever did it. Because I was bored, and I was still a student at this point, I think. And back when Rob Staten was there as well, and I think I spoke to him about just like, I feel like, even though it's sad, I feel like it's the right time for him to go. And I did feel that at the time, because the way the fan base had turned on him, I hated it when our fan base turned. I still hate it when our fan base turns, because it's not nice. And it had turned on Carlos, if you remember at the time.
Yeah.
And I just felt like...
the press conference with the £20 note.
Yeah, I was in that situation though, in that mind space of like, well, we've got this far. We're kind of like, we were becoming entitled Wednesday there. You know, we were becoming like, well, we can attract a big manager and go up now. Well, I didn't see that. I didn't see Joss coming. Who saw that coming? I was like, oh, this guy, Carlos. And do you remember when Joss came in as well? We went, oh, well, you know, it's worked with Huddersfield, with Wagner coming from that sort of background, and we trusted him with Carlos.
The only thing I liked about Joss, he let Hugh getting that hat-trick versus Norwich City on the last day of the season.
Yeah. You're just trying to rip open the wounds currently, aren't you? Bringing up New and everything now. You're just going for it. But yeah, it's nice to hear...
We just want you back.
It's nice to hear Carlos talk about good time. And I remember, New also played a lot under Carlos.
He did.
And Carlos was the right kind of manager for where we were. He did a lot of things with us, and I think we have seen the cracks in it. But I've got to present the side that is going to get mentioned in the comments. So the people who've not watched this all the way through and have just commented straight away, Carlos did contribute to our injury factor. He did have full control of things, and there was some mismanagement in there as well. And it did leave us in a slightly rebuild phase after that. But then again, you've got to realise that every manager does that. When they come in and put their stamp in, the next manager is not likely going to be a like-for-like replacement that can just slot in and use everything the way the club was working before. So I'm not surprised that was the situation. I think
if Carlos came back, he'd get fully backed again by Chelsea if he knows what he can do. And I think the fans, for the most part, would back him.
Yeah.
Like I told you...
I want to give Darren Moore a chance, obviously, and everything.
Until Moore came, I was hearing that there was an agreement in place for Carlos.
Well, he was in Sheffield as well, weren't he, and everything. And it was... I don't know, though, because isn't he still at Braga, or am I making that up?
Yes, I think he is.
Why would he... He's doing really well at Braga. I don't know why.
And that's his boyhood club as well.
Yeah. I do think he will be Sheffield Wednesday manager again one day, but I think it might be a case of the only way I could see it happening in the recent future is if we go down with Moore, right? Moore brings us back up, but then struggles to push us higher than mid-table.
Yeah,
and we're in a position to reset and do it again. That would be a hell of a story, right? The manager comes back and finishes what he started. But it's a bit romanticised, isn't it? But it'd be interesting to know what everybody thinks about the Carlos link. But I like the man. I always liked the man. I thought he had a personality more than other managers. And obviously we saw that when he was on. It's almost like he only started to exist when he went to the Prem.
Spoke to him a couple of times. He was always very courteous and had time for you. And even if it was a quick 5-minute chat, he'd seen you in town, he would speak with you for 5 minutes.
I tell you what, podcast guests, Carlos would be up there. So if you are listening to this, Carlos, by any chance, come on the Talking Wednesday podcast. We would love to chat to you because, especially in my lifetime, the best 2 seasons with Wednesday. Yeah, so there's a lot of positives in there, and I would eventually, obviously, I'm backing more fully. But eventually, if things weren't to go right, I would happily welcome him back at the club. Now we've seen what can happen after the fact, and you can go through more turbulent times. But yeah, I just thought it'd be an interesting topic to bring up because he had that interview. We've only just got to community topics. We're an hour and a half on the record. However, we'll probably be only about an hour and 15. There was a lot of waffle in the middle, so we were talking about quite a bit that. Well, we actually had to set some things up. So, still going long. This is probably our longest podcast ever. Community topics. The first one is from YouTube sub. Bloody hell. My brain today. Steve White. Can we eligibly field 2 goalkeepers if we only have 9 outfield players? I mean, Joe could take the right side and Cammy could take the left and take it in turns for down the middle. Think we'd be unbeatable for the remainder of the season. Wouldn't mind sacrificing any outfield player for Cammy and Joe keeper connection in the goal. They complement
I know Steve as well. That's really funny.
They'd complement each other too, as the mistakes one makes can be rectified by the other. No, we're not trying to slam on Cammy and Joe there, but that was funny.
I like that.
That was funny. We like to laugh in the community topics, and that is definitely one that made me laugh. I have never actually looked at the football rules to see if you can. I'm pretty sure there's a rule in there that you can't play 2 keepers, but I've never looked.
And if there isn't, Darren.
I mean, sometimes it's like we're playing with 10 men anyway, so just put 2 in goal and we'll be fine. Actually, to be honest, we've had so many red cards this season. We have played with 10 outfield players, so just stick 2 in the goal, and we'll probably be. This is the tactic now. The next community topic is from Pat Motley. Early shout-outs for player of the season. This is a difficult one given our circumstances, but even though he's missed a fair few chances of late, Callum Patterson would be mine. Go on, Jake, you can give yours first.
That's actually a good shout with Patterson. He does work well. Up until he got injured, it would have been Longo.
It'd be off for me up until he got injured, but yeah, I get you.
It's interesting, we've both gone for up until they got injured.
Yeah.
But Patterson's a good shout considering he's trying his best. There's some chances that he could put away, but
it's difficult.
I'd go with that. It's a hard one with this season because you don't know who to... No.
For me, because we've only just seen him play, and if he keeps up this consistency, for me, it's probably Urhoghide.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. If he keeps up this level of consistency, because he slots in at right back and centre back.
Yeah.
He seems to get on with it. Also, with an update from last week, even though we were obviously speculating him on leaving and clubs interested, he has said that he's not talking to any clubs at the minute. He's keeping his head down for now. So he's not drawing his focus at least, and you can see it on the pitch with Urhoghide.
He's a workhorse.
The sad thing for me, I will actually be quite sad if he goes because I can see potential in him. And it's funny, people are going, he's average. He's average. He's average. He's better than any other fullbacks, and he's got potential, and he's young. And in the position we're in, I can see. I like to think that occasionally you can see potential in players, and I think I can see quite a bit of potential in Urhoghide, and I think a lot of other clubs can too.
And this is the other thing. With players like this, you sign them on 2-3 year deals, and then you watch them improve, and then you sell them on for a higher price, even if it is the detriment.
Yeah, you don't let them go
ballot
for
the box.
Yeah, and if it is true, and it isn't on very much, there is still a chance if we offer him a big contract. So Wednesday, do all you can to keep him for me.
There might be a bit loyalty there because we took him when no one else did.
No, yeah, and we've obviously said that before.
We've said that before, yeah.
But yeah, Pat Motley, thank you very much for that. It's interesting.
Yeah.
We'll probably do a season. Well, we will. We'll do a season wrap. We'll probably do another. We've just survived episode or a relegation episode, and then following that, will probably be like our season's awards episode.
Either way, it will involve a drink. Both ones.
Indeed. Right, we glossed over this one last week. It's from Phil Carpenter, and we were going to do it, but we were running a bit long last week, and we're running even longer this week.
A bit like this.
But I'm not delaying it because we've done it, right?
Yeah.
Dex and Jake, seeing as we are all having a moan about management and players, how about picking the team that should be out there, getting us out of this mess? Assuming all players in the squad are fit and able, what starting 11 would you go for? Mine would be a 3-1-4-2 formation. Westwood, Urhoghide, Dunkley, Lees, Iorfa, sweeper in the front of the back three, Harris, Bannon, Brown, Reach, Windass and Rhodes up front. We would probably still get beat, but it would be interesting to hear people's views as we are all great managers and we know it. And we know it all. It might help us realise the difficulty facing Darren Moore and make us think twice before having a pop at him. Keep up the good work, guys. Ryan Big Boy Bruce on Twitter also asked the same, but flipped it with our current side. So we've done both for you, treating you today. We have looked at both of them. And there'll be a slight cut here, as I now will put up, we're going to look at Jake's team first. So when we come back in a split second, visual watchers are going to benefit most from this. We will audio describe it for our audio listeners because it is a podcast. But if you're ever going to go over to the visual one, have a look now as we get things up. Okay, so on screen now, you can see Jake's team for what we are going to. We're going to start with the team if everybody's fit. Right. So I assume...
That is the 3-3-4 wide.
So interesting. 3-3-4 wide one. Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah. So as you can see, also, this will be up on screen. This is Jake's team. Talk us through this a little bit.
So you got Westwood in net, which is obvious. I put Hutch in the centre of midfield. I think that's where he needs to go. Now, the Van Aken one, I couldn't see anyone really in there. I could have gone with Moses Adebayo, but sometimes it doesn't work. It's a weird one. We don't have a left back, right back that naturally fit, even though Moses Adebayo is, if you know what I mean.
This is a 3-1-4-2.
I've got Iorfa playing as in front of the midfield. I think that's where he's better at. I've got Longo and Bannon in midfield with Green and Harris on the wing. Go
on. Is this? They're not fullbacks. Is this a back three?
This is a back three, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you've got Green and Harris working as getting back.
Yeah, it's the way you've spread it. Right.
Yeah.
It confused my brain for a second because back threes are usually compact together. So this isn't what I've just said. This Green and Harris are your wing backs.
Yes.
Right. So this is a 5 at the back technically, but it's not. It's a 3 at the back. So image this. So he's got Van Aken, Hutch. I was like, why the hell is Van Aken at left back? He's got Van Aken, Hutchinson, and Palmer as the centre backs. Then Green and Harris as his cover wingers. Yeah. So explain a little bit more about that for me. Go on then.
So for Green and Harris, Green, even though we haven't seen much of him yet, I think he's quite quick to be able to get back and do that defensive work. And we've already seen Harris play this season. He's already done bits of this where he's had to cover, and he's done okay, if you know what I mean. I think them bombing forward is a really good one, especially with Green itself. I think Green is one I really want to see more of once this Achilles is fixed. I've got Iorfa in front of the back three.
Yeah.
Now, I prefer Iorfa in front of that back three. I think he worked well. When we were testing him there, there's a position there that he knows. And he can get back and come back and be a defender if need be, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I do.
I've gone for Bannon and Longo in midfield because I thought when they were in, they worked really well. Interesting, I've gone for Windass and Patterson up top because there is a partnership there already brewing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get it. One's got pace and one's got the scrappy power ability, so I can see why that'd work.
Even though I didn't say there was no pace.
I did. Yeah, you did. We'll forget about that one. That's quite a decent team because I've not seen enough of Green to tell me he can do that job at covering fullback though. You know, wing back sort of thing. Attacking wing back. He's definitely great going forward, but I'd need to see more of him to say that he'd be that for me. Then again, I think I might have done similar on one, so we'll see in a second. I like your midfield. I like Iorfa in front of that back three. Van Aken obviously would have been great. We know he's going, but it was obviously a case of if this season's fit, what would be our starting 11? That's interesting. Mine isn't the same. We thought we'd line up quite well. Mine is different. You can see mine now. I've also gone for a 3 at the back. It's a bit different. I've got Westwood in net. I've got a back 3 of Borna, Iorfa, and Dunkley. Right. And if you can see that, I've actually given them I've not actually for Borna for me is more of a no nonsense centre back. I've not put him as one, but Iorfa would be my ball playing centre back, which has the license to roam because he is good in front of a back 3 as well. For me, what I want to see is Borna and Dunkley covering Iorfa as a back 2, obviously a normal centre back pairing. When he goes forward with the ball, they slot in that position and they can kind of like. I'm going to give Dunkley a slight license to overlap if he wanted to. Because I think Dunkley's quite good on the ball as well. But I think Borna and Dunkley and Iorfa in that centre-back 3 would be ideal for me because I would feel comfortable if Iorfa wants to go on a run and link up the midfield because Dunkley and Borna, Dunkley's so vocal, Borna would be great with him next to him, I think, and Westwood in there would have been perfect. At left back, I've got Reach because I still feel like we've got so much ability going forward in the actual squad now in terms of the wingers that Reach has got that, but he could overlap with Green for me on the left-hand side. So if you took Reach, who's not the paciest, but has got a hell of a cross on him, he could actually switch up the play and get it to... I've put Harris as my right winger. You could actually swap the ball to Harris. So So I've played with obviously 3 at the back with the wing backs, and then I've got a midfield 2 and then a front 3. You'll notice this is very Liverpool as well. But it's a case of I like the idea of Urhoghide being at that right wing-back slot because he goes forward as well. I've basically gone for an overlapping wing because that wing, you could see them doing both jobs. Harris can track back as well, but they can go forward with it. And then I've put Patterson at the top because Patterson... He's not the slowest. He's not obviously the paciest player, but he can scrap in there. And for me, he's that style of player that can then go in and then we can actually focus a lot of our attack through Green and Harris and let Patterson be the striker that's in there picking up the pieces, and linking it up.
Yeah.
And then you're overlooking the mid. So yes, I am looking to play through the wings there, ideally. But my plan B, you got to have a plan B, and that's why I've lined this team up for that here. Is Bannon and Luongo in the midfield. Because Bannon is box to box. If we decide to go through the middle, Iorfa decides to take it out. He's got options. Do you put it to reach to Urhoghide? They can start the attack. Or do we go through the middle? And do we go with Bannon? Iorfa, give it to Bannon. Let's go box to box. Luongo, if the opposition players recover possession, Luongo, be the ball in midfielder. Get on it. Get back into the play. Lay it off to Bannon. Let him do that through the middle. Okay, so for me, there's a lot of options in that side, and I think that would be, if I was the manager, that is what I'd want to try with Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
Different sides, but interesting. Let's have a look at Jake's.
Crack the last one.
Yep, current squad, if we are going off who is currently fit. So talk me through it.
So, Palmer, Dunkley, Hutchinson, Reach, straight back 4, really. Wildsmith in net. Pelopessi in front. I know I've had people say this week to me, Pelopessi is not a footballer from what I've seen. He's been played as one. He's done a good job. We've had this discussion before. Sick of talking about it. The player that's improving for me and Dex on this one. We all have opinions. Bannon just in front of that. I like him to play a little bit further forward. Kachunga, and I must mess this up. It should be Harris and then Patterson and Windass up top.
All right, okay, yeah, no worries.
I think you give Bannon that little bit where he can sit back, but then he can go into that space and go forward and kind of switch it. But I like having the defense a little bit more solid at the back.
Yeah.
Because you get, and for everyone that always said Palmer's not a great player, he is. He does get back. He works hard. He always puts a shift in.
I'm actually, spoiler alert, Palmer's not in any of my sides, but he would be my first rotation if I had, because I don't like leaving Palmer out. But going off my philosophy of the way I like to play football, I'm not a football manager, but when I set up any team on any simulation game or anything like that, there's other players in our squad that would suit my style better. And that's the whole point of this. It's the fun side of it. It's, I think realistically, Palmer's got the experience that I would happily trust him. You could slot him in and out for like the Reach spot or the Urhoghide spot because he'll do the job. He's a great player, and I want to see. He's one player I want to say stay at the club. He's come on leaps and bounds for me, and he's a very solid player.
So
yeah,
as well.
Same. But yeah, for this, I knew you'd probably put Palmer as well, so I'd get off the hook a little bit.
I like Kachunga on the wing as well. I do like him for his speed. He's a little bit crafty at times.
Kachunga was nearly my position, for my ideal side. Do I put him up there instead of Patterson? Yeah. But I wanted a different style because I had so much pace with Harris and Green that I was like, I don't need just somebody with pace. I want to go for somebody who can make a goal out of nothing like Patterson. So that's why I went for Patterson up front. But I like this. This is a good side given what we've got. Mine does differ. Again, we'll go over mine now. So
I do find it funny that we both got injuries to both our players in certain positions at the back.
Yeah, no. Well, I started a new season for this. We've used Football Manager, obviously, to ignore all my tactical styles. I'm not actually using that. But Wildsmith in net, because I think he's the better of our two current keepers. I've got Borner and Lees at centre-back. He doesn't fill me with confidence, but we haven't got many options because Dunkley's not fit, is he?
Dunkley is fit.
Is he?
Dunkley's fit. Dunkley even said on Instagram, somebody said, get in the squad once you're fit. And he said, I am fit. Dunkley's fit.
Right. Then I want Dunkley instead of Lees in this side, please. Because I honestly thought he's a mission at the minute.
No,
because he has been injured. I
Yeah.
thought it was precautionary that he picked up knocks.
No, Dunkley is fit.
Right. Lees is not in this side. He's on the bench. Dunkley is next to Borna for me.
Sorry, Tom.
And then I've still got left back of Reach, right back of Irigidi, because I still think they can go forward with it. This is me playing through the middle. Okay, because at the minute, I've seen a lot of our wing play, it only works, it's not getting us results, right? And we can play wing play, but this would be my plan A currently.
Yeah.
I've put Hutchinson in front of a back two as an anchor man, a defensive midfielder that can link up the play and drop into the defence if he needs to. Okay, so I do like that. I do like that defensive midfielder that can drop in. You can see that's the style that I like because I like to build the play through the middle if we can. Him linking up with Bannon will be great. Bannon and Pelopessi. I've gone for Pelopessi again. He's actually becoming a really good player to link up the play as well. He's not as much of a ball-winning midfielder as you think. You think him like for Luongo. He's not really that. He can do that, but he's actually a bit more technical. He is more of a player that likes to link up the play, and he's actually getting quite good at it. So for me, we didn't really have that natural ball winner that wasn't Hutchinson, but I don't want to put him in the midfield because I want him to shield my defence. So I put Pelopessi next to Bannon. They can do similar jobs, but I will utilise Bannon as a box-to-box midfielder and just let Pelopessi sort of like link up where he can. And then in front, I've got Izzy Brown as an attacking midfielder, as a centre just behind the two strikers.
It took me a lot not to put Brown in.
Because the times I've seen Brown play, don't let him do the long runs, but give him the ball and he'll be able to get it and lay it off to somebody or link it through or even have a shot himself, and he wants to score and he wants to get forward. For me, I want that behind my front two. My front two are Patterson and Kachunga. I think they are our best two. Rhodes, obviously, as I said, is too inconsistent for me. Patterson's getting the goals. He can find a goal out of nothing. Kachunga, for me, shows a lot of good signs as well because he's got the pace. So you get it to Kachunga, he gets in there, he can link up the play. We've seen it from a corner, actually. Long throw from Patterson, Kachunga's head comes back in, and then Palmer got that goal that time, didn't he? And yes, sorry, Palmer.
Yeah, he did.
Not in this side. But Kachunga, for me, I want to see a lot more of him. Play him as a striker there. Why not? With Brown behind him and Patterson at the left, I could see that working. For me, if we were to try and change it up and try and get some results, I'd give this a crack. I'd give it a crack and play through the midfield because you've also got the option of dropping Hutchinson into that back three there and letting Reach and Irigidi become full wing backs and letting him go up the field and then play your wing play.
And as you notice with Moore, he's doing that playing from the back kind of mentality at the minute.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard it's all about building from the back with Moore. But yeah, that was really fun. Okay,
yes.
and we have had...
I like that question.
We've had quite a few people contact us, and I've been speaking to quite a few people. If you want to contact me, guys, please use all the Dexterity Box things. Use the community tab for the topics and stuff, but if you're ever going to try and actually contact me for whatever reason, a suggestion or anything, there is a Dexterity Box Twitter. There's also a Dexterity Box Facebook. Talk through the official channels, that sort of thing. That's the best way to do it. And they're the ones I check as well. So let's wrap that one up, but thank you. Please keep them coming in terms of that. The community topics, really good this week. A lot of fun. Upcoming matches. After Norwich, it's Huddersfield and Barnsley. So Huddersfield, inconsistency, but looking to get back onto it. They're worried about getting dragged down into relegation battle. I pretty much think they're
I think they're safe.
All right. I think they're safe. I think we're going to save them, if anything. How do you feel for the Huddersfield match?
It's that whole thing. It's any team that's inconsistent come against us, then so you get that consistency. I think the beautiful thing we've had this week, especially going into the next couple of matches, Norwich, Huddersfield, we've had a week where he's had a week uninterrupted where we can try and say to the player, this is what I want to do. Yeah. This is what I want to work on. Hopefully that week will have helped them see what he wants. Because it was always going to be hard for him to go and put his stamp down straight away with 2 games in a week. So I slightly confident about that Huddersfield game because if he can get on believing in themselves, we might get something.
Yeah. It's the one we're probably going to more likely to get something from because Barnsley on a 4-match winning streak might be slightly different by the time we get there. But good side.
Barnsley are just impressive. The manager they brought in, they've recruited him really well.
They've shaken off the stereotype Barnsley this season, and fair play to them for it. You know, I'm not
They look like Carl. They look like Carlos scene from first season.
I couldn't fully disagree, to be honest. They've done the right things. I think it's a bit far to call them the model to go for Yorkshire football after one season. Let's see some consistency, but they could definitely kick on. They are that side that can push for it, and I don't see it being easy for us at all. Again, two Yorkshire fixtures, I'm seeing us struggle to get anything out of. I'm only hoping that this is the thing. We lose these, we are down. We've been saying that pretty much every week, but like, there's no way, if we lose both of these, we're up. We're staying up.
The thing is, when you look at the table, yes, we need to now massively go on a run. And then the teams like Birmingham, and Rotherham, Birmingham are up and down. But when the team at me that just don't know how to put a run.
There's also rumours floating around that Rotherham allegedly might get a points deduction for the fact that the amount of matches and the. It's interesting, that one. I want to talk about that in a bit more detail.
Yes.
But, I won't do it. We won't do it today, but because I want to see if there's actually any legitimacy in this story. But we have heard inklings that they are a team that have had a lot of matches called off, and we understand fully in the current situation. But the teams they have played around that, none of them have had COVID positive tests come back.
The one that got me was this weekend game that got called off again. That they had it postponed due to COVID, yet we didn't, and we just played them. 9 out of 10, when you see a team play another team,
that's not us bringing this up, by the way. This is genuinely we read it. We read a source. We found it when we were just looking at stuff, and I think somebody was baiting for clicks. They were going we could get a points deduction for that. It won't end up in a points deduction, but there has been people starting to mention that. Why is this being a situation if there's only
Birmingham manager said you look at their running games, they got games coming up that could potentially put Birmingham down. If they win their game, then they got nothing they can do about it. So there are concerns there. I don't know.
But yeah, we will obviously be back next Sunday for the Talking Wednesday podcast after all of that, and we will see the current state of it. What was meant to be a quiet week has turned into our longest Talking Wednesday yet.
Ever.
By some bits, some milestone. I definitely need to stand up now because this chair is not comfy. But yeah, anything final you'd like to close on, Jake?
Apart from that, was your plug for Can I Have a Chair sponsorship, please?
Yeah, definitely. I'll take any sponsorships at the minute, mate. This channel's becoming expensive.
Nah, just take care of yourself, really.
Yeah. Look after yourselves. Be nice to each other. Be humans that are open to growth in your life. Let's get all philosophical about Cowie. Be decent to people. Be decent to yourselves. And we will see you next week for Talking Wednesday.
Yeah.